Starting over can feel terrifying. It can feel embarrassing. And honestly, a lot of that I feel comes from our ego. I feel like this was the perfect video to start the channel with because earlier this year, I found myself needing encouragement. I needed pep talks just to get back online. And I remember watching videos like this that said exactly what I was feeling when I didn't even really know how to put it to words. So I wanted to make this for the person who's either starting over or realizing they probably need to. I also want to share a bit of my testimony and who I am. My prayer is that this encourages you or maybe helps you see more of yourself in my story. Okay, so I don't know where you are in your life or what starting over looks like for you right now, but I want you to be open to this moment, exactly where you are, and I want you to know you're not alone. Okay, and I say that because not everyone has a positive outlook on starting over. And I know that because I used to be one of those people. Starting over can feel terrifying. It can feel embarrassing. And honestly, a lot of that I feel comes from our ego and from how society has framed what a successful life is supposed to look like. Our ego wants to keep us safe. It wants us to look put together. It wants things to appear neat and controlled. But starting over is often messy. Okay, it feels out of control, and society pushes the idea that there's only one right timeline, one right path, and many of us find ourselves walking it until something disrupts it, sometimes from within us, sometimes externally. And while we may have plans, right, we make these plans, I've learned that God has his own plan for us, and he will do whatever it takes to realign us with what he created us to do. He is the ultimate disruptor, okay? And even though, where you are right now may feel uncomfortable and even painful, what he has for you is better than anything you could have ever imagined on your own. And I haven't always believed that, okay? I used to hate the cringiness that came with starting over until I realized it's one of the most courageous and smartest things you actually can do. I just never thought I'd be doing it again at 30. And I'm looking at myself in the camera, y'all, because, I'm a girl. But to give some context, my birthday is at the end of this month. I'll be 30. And right now I'm sleeping on my mom's couch. You can see my pallet behind me. I don't have a car. I don't have a job. And I'm starting completely over on social media. Like from zero. Well, basically zero. I have like 30 followers on TikTok and like 10 on Instagram, but that's like zero. Come on now. You already know. But what makes this even more ironic is that I used to create content under a different name. I was actually monetized previously on YouTube at one point. My numbers were never really huge, like on social media in general, but YouTube was my main focus. And earlier this year, I really felt the Lord clearly say, shut it all down. So I did. I also attempted to take this time to detox my body. I struggle with migraines, and if you know, you know, okay? I have been taking Excedrin so often that it stopped working as well as it could, and I clearly felt the Holy Spirit tell me to detox, and that process has been one of the hardest, most painful things I've ever done in my life. So I needed the space. I needed quiet. I needed obedience. But yeah, all of that to say, I'm starting over, child. I'm starting over. I truly believe an empty space, though, is actually a gift because you get to decide what fills it. You get to choose what stays, what goes, and what gets rebuilt with God. And for the first time, I stopped telling myself I was just in between things. I had to be honest and say, look, girl, we starting over. Not because I failed, but because God is doing something different and I want to be a part of it. So I want to go back for a moment, just a little bit, because I truly feel like our past matters, especially when it comes to self-discovery and recognizing patterns. And you may realize, like I did, that there's also a lot of good in your past. clear indicators from God aligning you to his will and purpose, that his hand was always on your life. And maybe at the time we just were too distracted and blind to see it. So creativity has always been a part of my story, right? I want to start there. I wrote little children's books in elementary school, then came joining the choir, music, songwriting, acting, musical theater, all the things, y'all. Looking back now, it's very clear that being in front of a camera, telling stories was always part of God's plan for me. But back then, I didn't believe in myself. I didn't believe in myself. I knew there was more to my life, but I didn't feel capable of reaching it. So I did what a lot of us do. I tried to find myself through structure, right? Through school, through jobs, through other people's definitions of success. I released a few music projects. I even tried my hand at radio, but nothing really fit for me. And at the time, I didn't know Jesus. So I was busy spinning my own wheels, doing everything in my own strength, trying to force myself into boxes that I thought I belonged in. And I was frustrated. I was confused and eventually ended up really depressed. So now fast forward through a lot of random jobs and unfulfillment. In 2020, I thought things were finally looking up, right? I had released another EP. I was getting booked, honey, for shows, opportunities. You know, things were really coming together, and then COVID hit. Isn't it just like God to disrupt us? That year, like many, forced me to face myself in a way I never had before. And if I'm being honest, I was angry at God. I felt like he showed me things just to take them away. And even though I hadn't even given my life to him yet, y'all, I still blamed him when things fell through. I still blamed him. It sucks. It really sucks how fast we're quick to blame, things on God and his lack of love for us. If only I had used this moment to seek him. Instead, I had actually walked further away from him. And this became one of the worst seasons of my life. Like, by the end of 2020, I was deeply depressed. I was on antidepressants and I was struggling with suicidal thoughts. And I share that very gently because I know I'm not the only one. I know that 2020 was such a hard year for a lot of people. Now, in 2021, I started posting on YouTube, not because God called me to, but because I heard that's where the bag was at. Like, I heard the girls was making money on YouTube. And it's funny because God still allowed it to work. I got monetized, the views came, the validation came, but my soul was so empty, y'all. Because I was creating from comparison, from insecurity, from fear of being left behind. Even the decisions I made about my body, my image, my life were rooted in trying to be like everyone else, and none of it really fulfilled me. This is why I always tell people, if you really want to be a creator, if there's one thing I could share with you, is start with yourself. Stay rooted in who you are and your authenticity, because yes, your videos can go viral. You can make some good money, but it's all counterfeit if you're not being authentic. The feelings you have won't last, and just take it from me, it will not fulfill you. Now, by mid-2022, I was exhausted, y'all. Like, physically, emotionally, spiritually, I was exhausted. I checked into a hotel room for a weekend, and the moment I walked in, I dropped to my knees. I literally still have my journal I took with me. I cried, I prayed, and I asked God to show me his face, because I had nothing left. Like, I had nothing left. And that's when I gave my life back to God. Not perfectly, right? Not instantly changed, but sincerely. And from that moment on, my life began to shift slowly. God began breaking mindsets off of me, and that didn't happen overnight. I want to make that clear. It took years, and he's still doing it. I started talking about God online, and the views dropped drastically. The applause stopped. The validation disappeared. I ended up moving from my hometown, Chicago, to Tulsa, Oklahoma. I joined the church I've been watching online. I volunteered there, got baptized there, et cetera, et cetera. And I was still working jobs I hated, still mismanaging money, still operating in baby faith. And then came another surrender. In 2023, I got fired from my job, And without really waiting on God, consulting with him, I bought a van and tried living in it. I always wanted to try van life. The van ended up being a scam. Okay, I ran out of money. At first, I was content, but when things really started falling apart, I questioned everything. I felt Holy Spirit say Chicago was not the place to go back to, so I ended up coming to Georgia. Now, mind you, I despise Georgia, y'all, and honestly, I still do. Okay, it just isn't my place. But a lot of my family was here, and I knew I'd at least have a place to lay my head. What I didn't know was that God was going to heal me here. Now, fast forward to this year, right? During my annual fast, I offered God a fresh surrender. And this time I felt the shift, y'all. Like, God told me I would show up again online publicly, but this time it would be without striving, right? Without chasing money, without comparison. Honestly, I didn't want to come back. I'm not gonna lie to you. I was very comfortable being hidden. I still am. But the calling grew louder, and now it doesn't feel like pressure. It feels like walking in obedience, if I could compare it to anything. So here I am now, completely starting over. I'm not exactly sure what's to come, but that really doesn't matter because I know who's with me. And I also know what happens when you surrender, when you let God fully take control of your life and plans. Proverbs 16:3 I want to share. It says, put God in charge of your work, then what you've planned will take place. So if you're here as a creator, I want you to ask yourself, why are you really here in this space? What are your motives? Who are you creating for? I feel like that's something to get clear on. And if you're just simply starting over in general too, I want you to know you're not late, okay? You're not behind. You're so courageous. And I wish you, everyone who's watching this, so much success on your new journey. And I urge you to press in with the Lord to get clear on what it is that he wants you to do. You'll be so surprised to discover what you hear. Maybe it's nothing. Like, maybe it's to rest in him, to trust him, to lean not in your own understanding. Maybe he has some chains he needs to break within your mind and your heart. Either way, you are not here by chance, okay? And even if you feel you are, understand that the Lord is a redeemer. He's a restorer, and he wastes absolutely nothing. And anything he has for you is greater, way, way, way greater than anything you could ever imagine. You have to first allow yourself to be open with this, to really believing that. If this resonated with you, I'd love to hear your story in the comments or just anything you have to contribute. And if there's anything that I can pray for you about, the community can pray for you about, please don't hesitate to share. Remember, nothing is impossible with God. Here's to starting over.